hello everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. Today we have Buchi Reddy. He's the CEO and co-founder of Levo.ai. It's a product in the API security space. And rest, I will request Buchi to introduce himself, and then we take it further.
Cool. Hello everyone, and thanks Rupesh and team for giving me this opportunity. And excited to chat with you, and excited for the conversation. A bit about myself, like I'm originally from Hyderabad, and Rupesh, where your team and company is. And I studied there. I went to Usmania University, and I worked there for a few years. And after that, I moved to Bay Area, Silicon Valley, about 10 years ago. But my career, I started as a software engineer in Isha. Isha is a hedge fund based out of New York. Um, I was part of building high frequency trading systems, and after coming to Silicon Valley, I was very passionate about startups. One of the reasons I came here is actually be part of this startup action, and I started venturing into the enterprise company side, and I really loved it, especially the tools for developers, DevOps, and security people. And App Dynamics was one notable chapter in my Bay Area's time. And almost in 10 years, almost 5 years, I was part of App Dynamics. I did two stints there. I joined and I worked for some time. I left and I rejoined, but had great learnings. And apart from App Dynamics, I was also a very early member, like first employee of, basically a startup person. Like in App Dynamics was the largest company I've been part of. And About 1.5 years ago, like last year, I started this company, Levo, with my long-term friend and my co-founder, Harish Nataraj. I met him at App Dynamics first, and after that, we also worked together in another company. And this is the third time we are working together. So yeah, last year we raised seed funding and started this API security company.
Okay, Buchi, thank you very much for the introduction. Buchi, I will start off with some getting to know a little more about since this podcast is all about product quality, quality assurance, and product scalability. So I'll ask you some of the questions in your development journey, your testing journey of different products or product shipments. What has been your biggest mistake in production releases, and what did you learn from your experience? Like even in AppDynamics or any other companies where what do you think which could have done you could have done better to avoid those kind of problems in the production.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are like multiple mistakes, but the one that comes to my mind very quickly, almost embarrassed when I did that mistake, is once I actually committed some production database details into a test migration job,
Okay,
and that job kind of like
I
wiped
also
off
did
some.
once.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually,
like
once
that's why I said.
we ran a load test on prod, and we inserted triple of the actual current size of the database into prod. Then we are really scared that if the client figured out that we inserted so much DB into prod, then what will happen?
Great. I mean, yeah, that's why I said, like, it's almost embarrassing to actually share some of these mistakes, but they do happen, like in part and parcel of a software engineer's life. But like that was the one. Like we actually lost some data in production because of that, because I ran this migration job with the production credentials. But fortunately, that didn't have a lot of data in the first place. So whatever data that was lost, it wasn't like a big game changer for the business, but it was like I was almost, did I lose my job today? Like, it was crazy, very embarrassing. But I think, I mean, learnings wise, there's testing is very, very important, and you need to automate it as much as you can. I think that is the biggest thing, and like don't keep any of the manual steps and try to automate it fully as much as you can. I mean, it may not sound such something super special or something. That's what a lot of people and tools are kind of preaching, but you would still be surprised, like the with the in the enterprises, how much testing is still being done manually.
Okay, wonderful. What do you think? What is the percentage of the teams which are using manual testing versus automated testing presently in your experience?
Yeah, I think it depends on the nature of the business. There are some businesses, especially like I've seen both the fintechs and the enterprises of the world, enterprise products of the world. On the like in both the cases, there is, I would say, there are some specific scenarios that are not fully automated. Like maybe in one of the fintechs company that I was seeing, like almost 50% was manual. Actually, I was a bit surprised, but there were some business or domain reasons. Even in enterprises, I think there's at least 30% of the testing is kind of still manual, in my opinion.
Got it. Yes, that's a lot of manpower effort and a lot of dollar value invested out there. Yes, agree with you. And then now you have started a company in the API security. What is your major driving factor for starting a company in the API security angle? What was your internal motivation factor?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so why did I start this company? Like, if you actually, if you are paying attention to the cybersecurity news and in general, like there have been hackers for a while, ever since the web applications were built, and they were trying to hack the web applications and get your data and my data, our enterprise's data, and that has been going on for a while. But in the traditional web applications, like over time, the multiple tools have come up to actually secure the old school web applications, whether it is the SQL injections or whatever. Like a bunch of tools have come, and APIs have become prominent. Like, I mean, they've been used for more than 10 years now. But the way APIs, like the hackers are attacking APIs, the API attacks have become a lot more prominent in the recent times. And if you actually think about it, it's very scary. The attack surface from APIs is much bigger than web applications. Because in the traditional web applications, where like if the complete page is being rendered or constructed on the server side, there was limited scope on the client side to actually send some data or inject and all that. With
Yes.
that itself, people were actually hackers were still doing a lot of attacks. Now imagine what happens. There is a REST API, the post payload, you are completely taking that from client side. So
Yes.
this is like opening a Pandora box, and it's very risky. And to my surprise, I mean, for a while, like I was for a lot of like a lot of developers, I was not exposed too much on the security side until like about maybe 5 6 years ago when I was part of AppDynamics. Like that's when we were actually getting into a lot of security deals of APIs and all that. But when I started looking at the tools that are out there to help developers and security people to secure the APIs, I was blown away. I was super surprised that the lack of tooling. Some of the tools that are out there are actually reactive in nature. They're kind of helping, like web application firewalls. They're telling, hey, we will watch your traffic in production and we'll tell you if somebody's trying to attack you or some of these things. I mean, maybe they are useful, but like they won't address the root cause, which is the quality issue, like the main topic of this podcast, or what you guys are helping with day in day out, right? I personally see security also kind of in the quality umbrella. I mean,
Yes.
quality is a very big, like, and it may not be functional quality, but it is quality of your product at the end of the day. If some hacker or some unauthorized user is actually able to get hold of the data, right?
Yes.
So that's the motivation. I mean, it's a long way of saying, but fundamentally, when I looked at the way APIs are being abused and the lack of tooling in the market, that's what motivated me and Harish to start this company.
Okay. Got it. And then, so you think this tool can fit with the dev team or the QA team or both the teams right now?
Yeah, good question. I think tools can be built in different ways. We chose this was a deliberate and conscious decision. We chose to build it to embed as part of the CI/CD and to help developers and QE
Okay.
and security alike. Basically, like if you actually build it in a way that it can be embedded in the SDLC loop in the CI and CD stages, then if you think about it, like the developers are actually building when they are doing, if your
Yes.
tool can be run on their laptop while they're actually developing or implementing the API, then they can use it. And
Yes, that's what I mean to say. Yeah, yeah. Like if it is a runtime, like it's like Postman collections. You don't use Postman, like it's not part of any life cycle. It's part of these days life cycle of every life cycle. Whether a developer, estate tester, or the prod guy, everybody's using Postman everywhere. Or like previously used to use F12 or some of the other very simple browser-based utilities. Everybody uses.
yeah,
It's not assigned to any locked to any role kind of thing.
exactly. Great that you brought up Postman. Our tool, what we built, it has some analogies to Postman. With
Okay.
respect to the way it can be run, we have a CLI that can be run by developers, QA people from their laptops, or it can be embedded in the CI with our native CI integration. So in that sense, it is exactly like Postman. It can be used by dev, QE, or security people alike.
Okay, got it. It's across the life cycle.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Puji, can you, for a benefit of the audience, can you maybe give us like a top five hacks which have happened in the market which you think were like really big, or really were very dangerous, sort of thing.
I want to divide that into two things. There are API security issues or quality issues that are found by bug bounty hunters before the world surfaces them. In my
Yes,
opinion, that also is kind of already went out, except that like maybe you are that's being tested in the closed circles. So
yes,
Actually, what is alarming for me is you see a lot of very serious issues there also. But to answer to your question, there is this specific API issue. It's people call it as I mean, you just look for IDAR, IDOR, insecure direct object reference, or BOLA, broken object level authorization. There is this just jargon or terminology so that people understand it better. But API authorization issue is actually the most common. And like actually, pe- if for all the API users or in general in the security world, there is a body governing body called OWASP. OWASP
Yes.
API top 10, just Google for it. You will see. I don't need to repeat it and tell that. But fundamentally, authorization issues have become the topmost. And some of the most recent attacks where they were exploiting data from APIs and all of these, they fall under this authorization and authentication umbrellas.
Okay, agree with you. Agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we when we are also doing security testing projects, we are also falling under the using the framework of OWASP only. Yes, right. Agree with you.
But to give some examples of the magnitude of the issues, just this week I came across a news. Do you know OpenSea? OpenSea.com. This is NFT's company. They're almost like the leader in the NFT space, where people go
Okay.
and sell, exchange NFTs. They paid like $200,000 for two authorization bugs that were found in their APIs.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
$100,000 each.
That, that's a cool payment.
Totally. Like I mean, people would like, okay, maybe I just find that bug and then don't work for the rest of the year.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. $200,000 decent payment for 2 bucks.
Yeah. So I'm saying that just to show the magnitude. Like I mean, if you think about it, a company would not pay $100,000 for one bug.
Yes. Agree.
Now, uh, like why I'm so passionate about this problem space or why we started Levo is basically we wanted to help enterprises and companies and teams to make sure such issues won't even get to the release.
Got it. Wonderfully. And so, Uchi, what do you think? What will be the product quality after 5 years? Will the security, performance, all these issues will be auto integrated into the product, or will there be any kind of demarcation of roles that we need to test it out because if the development team has already built it out well, then there's no need of testing, right?
I wish I can say that the entire software will be bug free after 5 years and there is no need to test anything, but I don't think that will be the case. If at all, actually, this is I don't know if it is a popular or unpopular opinion, but I would say it anyways. I actually think the quality of the software has been going down in the recent years, and it will go down. That's fundamentally because of few reasons. Actually, maybe look at your own operating system. I don't know whether you use Windows or Mac, or on phone whether you use Android or iPhone, whatever it is. Just look at it and recollect like last several years. I can clearly say that my iPhone operating system, it actually acts weird sometimes and all these things now compared to like 4 years ago. It used to be much much better. And the reason is actually we are trying to release very often. The businesses have
Yes.
actually businesses want the software to be released much faster. Gone are the days where you can do a release once in 1.5 years or 1 year. Even 6 months is gone now. Like people don't want to any functionality that you build, you don't want to keep it in the shelf. You want to release it and get it into the hands of the users much faster. That actually does not leave a lot of time for us to actually test, find bugs, and all of that, which is why the automation becomes even more important because you can't really manually test all these things. But with all of this context, I think the overall software quality, especially some of these consumer facing products and all this, unfortunately is going down. The maybe the way one of the ways we can improve is actually like I know people are already using artificial intelligence and some of these things, and more importantly, even the basic automation to the power like completely. But honestly, are developers going to move to a model where like there is no bug introduced? I don't think so. That's because there's a reason there is separate QA and developer persons. Fundamentally,
Yes.
it's about the mind shift. Developers like you can say positive and negative thinking model, right?
Yes.
Like in the security, there is like offensive and defensive. Right, but developer is trying to say, okay, this is the functionality I need to get it working. I'll write the code to actually get this working. That's what he or she is focusing on. The QA is like, okay, how can I break this app? How can I break this functionality?
Agree with you.
You can encourage developers to play that role as much as you can, but I don't think like they can actually do the 100% justice.
Good point, Puchi. I think your point is, yeah. That even I feel also that both the roles cannot merge, and number two, both requires a sort of different mindset and skills, and it's really difficult to find in a single person. It's sort of like left brain and right brain. See, people who like to code, they don't like to write. People who like to write, they don't like to code. So really, there will be people who can do both. So it's a merger of both the I think left and right brain balance is difficult to become in most of people. So that's why it's a good to have independent people. And number two, even if independent people give a new person will give a different outlook to your opinion. You know, you
Yeah.
might be thinking about some problem in one direction, but if you talk to five more people, you'll find, hey, अरे, उनके पास अलग opinions, solutions, better solutions मेरे से भी, on the
Yeah,
same
actually,
problem.
some people confuse it with, there is no need of QE or anything. There is a difference. Like I think when you want to deliver fast, you want to avoid this any extra manual work and some of these things that might be taking extra time and holding up your releases. That does not. Some people confuse it with, oh, we don't need QA or we cannot afford to have QA because it slows down. That's totally different. Like I think, I mean, a lot of people have adopted these agile practices and all of these things. I think things gotten better, but I have seen a couple of places where like they get it wrong and they think like, okay, developers actually should be doing the full testing. I mean, developers should be writing the unit tests. There's no disagreement there. They should be trying to automate some of the unit testing and integration testing as much as they can. But that it is still very valuable to have that second brain who actually try to break the functionality or try to use the app in a way that the developer could not have imagined.
Yes, agree with you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think two roles and two mindsets are different, and then it's good to have two people. And in fact, even if I also another angle cost wise also, I feel if you are asking dev people to test, you're in fact paying them little higher, you know, than the test people. You will be the cost wise, you will not be saving anything much out there. So, Puji, what do you think in terms of open source versus commercial tools? How it is, how the market will be? What do you think? Or which are the tools your favorite in the dev and test space? Which you recommend?
I think a lot of tooling is very specific to the programming language, and I think over the course of time, the unit testing and some of these kind of there is not too many options. But the ones that are there itself are good enough. And open source versus closed source, frankly, I think everybody likes open source because they can see and there are big communities around it, all of that. But I personally would not mind using even closed source if it is actually adding the value. Just going back to the point that we just stated, right? Ultimately, as a business, I mean, I think you can actually answer this question almost in two different ways by playing different roles. If I'm playing a software engineer role, I can answer this in a slightly differently. But I am like now I'm playing a CEO role, being the founder and CEO of my company. I am wearing a business hat. For me, every day I'm thinking like, okay, does it make sense for the business? And if it is a paid tool, but if it is actually solving a lot of pain point, if it is saving multiple hours of my developer's time, like you said, I would not mind paying for it. So I think there's definitely times where I used to think that, oh, I love open source. I don't want to look at paid, but I changed my mind in the recent times. It's all about like, what makes the most sense and what is efficient. But in terms of toolings, I think everybody likes Postman, like you said, in the API space for
Yes.
API design and development and all of that. And open source, I think, played a huge role. The fact that they are open source and anybody can use it, I think, definitely played a huge role. But apart from this, I think there is one tool that I would like to mention. I even worked with this person. It's called Schema Thesis. It's a Python based library. This is used to actually just first test your APIs and see if your API, how resilient your APIs are.
Okay.
It's like this is just general for functional testing also. Basically, just it sends random data to your APIs and see how your APIs behave. Like you can surface bunch of bugs and test the resilience of your APIs. Very relevant for the quality of your APIs.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Puji. Okay. So, final piece of, final question, Puji. What is your advice to the technology community on the quality assurance in the next 5 years? Anything you want to advise to our viewers?
One, I think to developers just starting off their career or in general, like I mean any developer, I myself learned it a bit hard way, which is when you are writing code, keep testing, automated testing in mind when you are designing the code itself. Like I mean I know some people religiously follow TDD, test driven development practice, even if you're not pulling to the extreme and like 100% religiously following it, like think about like testability of your code from the beginning. And if you have that in mind, the way you design the code, the classes in Java, or like how do you design some of the modules and components is completely different. That's one. And two, Look at the test pyramid. I think there's, I don't know if you use this terminology a lot, but there is a concept of test pyramid, right? Like all the, unit tests, integration tests, system tests, and end-to-end tests. Like try
Got
to
it.
cover different aspects in that entire pyramid. Every layer, there is a reason why that layer exists in that pyramid, and it is hugely valuable. Like even as a startup, actually, if you see, like we have, and we're just like, dozen people team, and we have only been around for like 18 months. Still, like we have a whole bunch of automated testing that happens, and there were like numerous cases where one of my developers, or even including myself, I did a commit, and within next few minutes I actually found a bug in this end-to-end test. Like, so the second advice that I would say is basically pay attention to all the layers in the pyramid. And if you want very high quality, make sure like you have coverage in different stages of the pyramid. Uh,
Okay.
and
Okay.
third one I would say is just automation. Invest in automation. Anything that you are doing testing for the more than 2 times, if you are doing the same thing for the third time, you should actually seriously question like, should you automate it, or there better be a very good reason on why you are doing it manually for the
And
third
the
time.
big good point. Yeah, yeah. I think yeah. You should ask yourself how to save this time, how to save this effort.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Buchi. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and for the listeners as well for listening to this. If you have any comments or anything, like, I mean, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to even discuss, or if you have any questions, send them my way.